Latin America is home to about 8% of the world's population but has about one-third of its homicides in 2016. That meant some 400 homicides a day, or roughly 146,000 a year. But the bloodshed is not evenly distributed. In Mexico, the region's second most populous country, 33,753 homicide victims in 2018 set a record for the second year in a row. 17,142 victims in the first half of this year likely means 2019 will set a new mark. In Brazil, the most populated country in the region, homicides fell 13% between 2017 and 2018, but that still means 51,589 people were killed. Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, regarded as some of the world's most violent countries, have also seen declines, as has Colombia, long riven by political and drug-related violence. The regional homicide rate has increased 3.7% annually over the past decade, 3 times the population growth rate of 1.1%. Chile's 2.7 homicides per 100,000 people in 2018 were about half the US's 5.3, Mexico and Brazil's 25 per 100,000, and Venezuela's 80 were many times more. But there are what we call invariant factors that seem to correlate with homicide across time and space, and there are a few of them. Income inequality. Field laborers in line at a gym-turned-shelter in Saltillo, Mexico, August 21, 2015. Income inequality, measured by Gini, is strongly correlated with homicide over time and space, and Latin America has 15 of the 20 most unequal countries, measured by Gini inequality, on the planet. Governments in the region have sought to close that gap and address poverty with measures like conditional cash transfers, which require recipients to meet certain criteria to receive benefits. High prices for exports, like oil, also enabled governments to reduce inequality during the 2000s. But disparities persist, and the region's recent economic slowdown has endangered gains that have been made. These divides create conditions that allow them to be perpetuated, Muga said. When you have large disparities in wealth, you create greater competition among populations that experience varying levels of mobility, and this inequality also creates competition between the rich and the poor for public goods. Elites tend not to be interested in servicing public goods, including policing, and what you tend to get is substandard provision of these public goods in areas of concentrated disadvantage, which reinforces negative feedback. Unemployment, especially among young men. High rates of unemployment in Latin America, reaching 30% regionally, but you also have low-quality employment for large numbers of young people, wherein the trade-offs of a life of informality versus a low-paying job in a formal sector becomes a little less obvious. Where you see these high rates of youth employment, you can see how it leads to crime. The estimated unemployment rate for Latin America and the Caribbean fell slightly to 7.8%, and the rate tend to decrease. A lack of work, particularly for youths, often translates directly to crime. In Brazil, every 2% increase in unemployment results in a 1% increase in homicide. There's a pretty linear relationship. Rising violence can also have a negative effect on employment.